I always forget they can't hear me they can't hear me unless I put you out of the speaker. Last technology. All right, Facebook, getting ready to do a live enlightened conversation with Zack Alexander, holistic life coach. I'm going to turn the volume up so you guys can hear him. All right, ready. Cool. All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Enlightened Conversations. Excited for today and have an awesome guest with us who is right now in St. Louis, Missouri. And we have Zack Alexander, who is a holistic life coach, and he's Zack Energetics on Instagram. You have his exact link if I didn't say that right. But that's how I discovered Zack, and not too long ago, maybe a couple days ago, maybe a week ago at the most, and saw the energy he was sharing with his audience and reached out to him and knew we would have a cool conversation, which is what we're going to share with you guys today. So without further ado, for me, I want to introduce you guys to Zack. And if you can share with the audience, Zack, so they're more familiar with you, who you are, what you do, why you do it, all this good stuff.
Yeah, so obviously I'm a holistic life coach, and so I do in-person sessions and also distance sessions as well. One of my main focus is using a trauma-informed approach of helping people heal trauma, and I use alternative means to do so. I embarked on this journey or this career purely because the approaches I used were very successful in healing my own trauma. When I was around 18 years old, I really truly believe I had the life skills of about a 5 or 6 year old, and the conventional medical community wasn't really offering a lot of solutions for me, so I had to get really creative about how I went and healed my trauma. I was eventually offered a full scholarship to a top law school. I went for a semester, and around that time, I was having a huge spiritual awakening, and the universe was kind of really pushing me towards taking what I learned and using it with other people. So I withdrew after one semester. I started up my practice. I've had it for about a year. I literally only started up my Instagram page that you found me through around 6 weeks ago. But it's done well, and the information I've shared has really resonated with people. So it's been a cool journey for me.
I love it. No, it's awesome how life can start to unfold for us first, like on a personal level, where things that can help us on our journey, start to be uncovered, and that's what you just described there. And then all of a sudden, you're now applying this to helping other people that may be going through similar challenges that you went through. I think it's awesome. I love the synchronicities of life, the parts that we can't predict. And then once we realize that that's how it's always going to work, like things are going to show up that we could have never predicted, then it's like a forever thing. It's like an ongoing, like there's always can be new awareness or new things to help us on our journey. And
Absolutely.
It's kind of been my main message lately, I've noticed, just encouraging people to stay open to new awareness from wherever it may come from. Because if we're not open to it, then we're kind of limiting the unlimited, so to speak.
Yeah.
Awesome. So right now, you're what you're focusing on most is because with your spiritual awakening, I always like to go here because I always have these conversations and people are they're watching what we're talking about, where our vibration is and our frequency and where we are right now. And at the same time, even though we did come here as little unconditional loving little babies, for most of us we did have a period of life, which you already kind of described a little bit, where we forgot who we truly are, and that leads to lots of challenges and a roller coaster ride, and we've probably all been there. So for you, how did the light bulb start to come back on, where you were remembering who you truly are and all these things?
It's a really long story, but so I'm 29 now. When I was 21, I was working out in Nairobi, Kenya, and I developed I ended up getting really sick, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was ultimately bedridden for 4 years before they were able to distinguish what I had. I had an infection from Africa at the time. I was having really weird experiences during the illness. It felt very strange. But I was atheist at the time. I wasn't spiritual. I wasn't into anything. But I did a lot of deep soul searching when I was ill. And so my whole life, I had fought against the system and fought against what people told me to, right? Like I was a failing student my whole life, all that. So when I got well and I started to feel better, I asked myself, well, let me try and do what people always told me would make me happy. So I went back to college. I got the straight A's. I got into the fancy schools, and I didn't feel any better. Um, Around that time, I started feeling that there's something else going on, right? That my path is kind of being guided. Um, and then so right around, like I would say, right around like towards the end of my undergrad, right before I was about to leave into law school, the universe kind of took me in and flipped me over and spun me out. I went through massive ego death. I uncovered a lot of repressed memories of different forms of abuse. Um, and I was kind of in between these these non-ordinary realities. I ended up working with a shaman for a big portion of my healing process. I ended up training under her for at least for the last couple of years, and so through a lot of these shamanic practices and entering these non-ordinary realities, I learned a lot about the nature of time and about who I actually was. Because remember, I didn't believe in anything outside of a physical world up until then. So it was shattering actually to see like how different our reality is relative to my original perception.
Wow. I, I didn't expect, I don't think anybody expected you to go there where you started the story, 4 years being
Yeah,
bedridden. Oh my gosh. Like
yeah,
that's a, that's probably almost as difficult as it can get as a human being, as far as in this physical reality, not being able to move freely and experience life freely. Holy
no,
cow!
no, yeah. I was a prisoner of my body. It was tough.
So I mean, now it's becoming more clear to me, because what I know about life is like all of our challenges, regardless if they're that difficult or anything in between,
Mm-hmm.
whatever we want to call it. I mean, a challenge is always going to be challenging for all of us as we're experiencing it. However, what that leads to a lot of times is, if we do come out of it in this physical life, if we do come out of it and continue to be able to continue on, um, a significant amount of growth and of evolution and of new awareness, and
Yeah,
that's what you're describing, and that's what you're displaying here.
yeah.
And now, I mean, when you mentioned, I've had many shamans on, and it is interesting to talk about people's experiences, and what really, all the truths of the universe that we won't know all of them ever. It's just
No, no,
it's a,
no.
and we don't
Too
need to,
fast.
thank goodness.
Yeah, no, we don't.
We just hit a
Better
button and
off.
we're like, we know everything. You would just be an overwhelm, and you probably, you know, yeah.
Overwhelmed. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Absolutely. No.
but no, it's so interesting. And now I'm whenever I hear a story like yours, or any of you guys' stories out there, where now you're on a continuous path of growth, evolution on purpose, consciously, and at the same time sharing what it is that you've learned, and so that you can help other people. What are you excited about for the people that are coming into your path right now, as far as the things that that you've been sharing with them, and that you want to continue sharing with them? Like, what are some things that you just love for people, just from your life experience, your perspective, that you discovered, that you're like, I love people to know this about life, or about themselves, or whatever it is from your perspective?
We can heal. I mean, when I uncovered like when I really started stepping back and realizing the levels of abuse I went through when I was younger, there initially this victim mentality set in where I thought I was going to be scarred for life. Um, these shamanic and transcendental states that I was entering into allowed me to kind of pull some healing, like some alternative healing aspects that I didn't really know existed. And through these, I started recognizing, well, I'm far from fully healed. This is going to be a lifelong process, but that my past didn't have to define me, and then I wasn't going to be stuck within these states, within these states of being. Um, and so as I've had, not coming from a place of ego, but as I've worked with people and I've started to see the things that I've implemented in my own life now taking root and having that same effect in theirs, it's been eye opening. Because childhood traumas just can't be healed by talking. Okay, like there's an energetic element, there's a body physical element. Okay, so a a lot of people spin their heads and talk therapy for decades on end, hoping to see some progress and not necessarily getting it, right? Or then we turn to medications. These are all pieces of the pie, essentially, but it's so much deeper than that. And there's a reason why people are in talk therapy for decades and not necessarily getting well or healed, because we have to address the energetic component. We have to address the body component. The body is storing these traumas, okay? There's karmic components. I mean, there's so many other layers to our experiences, and now I get to address these with other people that I addressed to myself, and I'm having people come to me and they're like, "Wow, I kicked my addictions in a few months that I've had for years. Like, how did I do that?" So it's been really cool for me to be a part of and to watch that happen.
I love that. I love that. And for anybody out there listening to this, definitely, I love the fact that at any time, like we mentioned, new awareness and consciousness can come to you. So anybody inspired to reach out to Zack, I highly recommend. I normally say that later in the episode, later in the conversation, but even now, like, I just follow Zack, and because it just what he's talking about is so valuable. And at the same time, I'm very happy, Zack, that you and for everybody out there that's uncovered that they realize there's more going on than just what we see in these physical avatars and in this physical world, because that's what really makes life fascinating to me, is to know that there's way more going on than we could ever know. And at the same time, we're just different expressions of, the same, non-physical energy, the same stuff. Yeah. And like that lights me up. Like I love knowing that. And that's why I root for people so much, because I want people to be reminded of that for them, so that we can just know, like for me, Zack, what I care about most is in this moment, the only moment that's promised to any of us, or that we really have any control over, and it's an eternal moment of now, like this is the only thing that really ever exists, is in this moment, am I being who I truly am? Am I allowing myself to be connected with it, that energy, to where, I can see awesome synchronicities or have cool ideas drop into my mind, because I'm connected with it, and I don't have to be necessarily in a meditation to be connected with it. I could just be chilling right now, just being at peace. I don't have to be doing anything specific, or it doesn't. So that awareness that's my favorite part of life, because that's life simplified, is like right here and now. And with all the, because with the traumas and all this stuff, and I'd like to hear your perspective on this. These are continual, like, because of what you just described, how it's just more than just, it's more than just talking it out. Like, this is stuff that's sometimes stored in the body, or, through ancestral. I mean, there's just so many layers to it.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of times what that does is it plays out like patterns in our lives, to where we're not even realizing that this is affecting our right now, present moment energy. And so I love to give everybody a little bit of peace out there as well, just knowing that in the moments where you are, you're feeling good, where you're at peace, or you're enjoying yourself, you're having a good time, like, those traumas aren't affecting you in that moment. But when they're affecting you, and a lot of times they're blind spots, and you don't really realize that the reason why you've been feeling crappy all day is a lot of that stuff and ongoing. So but I always love to, because a lot of times people can know, okay, I have these childhood traumas, or I have these, and they could think that has to be like their whole life, like their whole day. When in the moments where you're like present with your friend, or present with your family, or present with nature, like, those aren't affecting you in those moments. It's the other moments where it's just, could you speak on that a little bit, as far as, because I just love to give people peace when it comes to all this, because people, I think, take life so serious, and they think, oh no, I'm damaged goods, and until I get all this worked out, I can't be happy, which that's not true.
Yeah, it is recognizing. So when people have been through trauma, they're constantly living the past within the present moment. Okay. So a lot of work is done to get people's bodies and minds to recognize that the past isn't within your present moment. So when you're out in nature, it's bringing mindfulness to the situation. So it's recognizing, like, I'm in nature, I'm safe. What do my feet feel like on the ground? What does the wind feel like on my body? It's about allowing yourself to be present within that moment. It's allowing yourself not to project into the future, like, oh my God, this could happen, and recognizing, pulling yourself back in, and recognizing the future's an imagined creation, right? We're creating an emotional response over a fictitious creation in our mind. So once again, being present. It's a skill, right? Because these are things that we're not taught from a young age. We're not taught how to be present, right? And so, it really is bringing people into the present moment, and just knowing that, like, and allowing them to cultivate safety within their environment, for them to recognize, like, in this moment, like, I am okay, right? and I know I've got all this other stuff to unpack, but right now I'm all right, right? So it doesn't have to define your experience 24/7. Right?
I love that. That's so important. Zach, that was my greatest weakness maybe a decade ago. Is
Mm.
I probably would have won the gold medal of not being present, just because.
No, me too, man. I mean, I was really not, but I had what's called like destination addiction for a while, which was always like, and that was a huge issue in my life. Was always like, the next thing is when I'm going to be happy. Like this is, if I just achieve it, like I bought, if I achieve this, or if I get into the fancy lost battle, and I was seeing, and that was really what started leading to this awakening I had, was it was like nothing was changing, right? And so until I went in and worked on my internal environment, nothing about my external was going to bring about happiness or peace, right? So I think that was a huge lesson that I had to learn.
Absolutely. And I can totally relate. And what I started noticing, Zach, is like even the victories in life were so short lived. Like an athlete, I was a baseball player, and if I'd had a good game, like it was just like I was already thinking like it was almost like, yeah, I'm supposed to have a good game, and I wasn't even like happy about it. But then when I had a bad game, I'm miserable. So it was like I couldn't win. It was like even the victories were like so short lived, and people would tell me like, Noel, like you don't even like take the time to like celebrate anything like good that's happened to you. Like you're always talking about like the next thing, and along that path, like you're disappointed the whole time, and I just didn't realize it. I was always projecting, like you just said, into the
Yeah.
future, and not enjoying any of the present moments, which it's a great recipe for lots of unhappiness in the present moment.
That tends to be a trauma response. So I mean that's and I've dealt with that as well as this mentality of perfectionism. So when you have a good moment, whatever you do, it could be a good test, it could be a good speech, it could be a good game, right? It's just like, okay, I just met the baseline I set for myself. Great, like okay, I'm safe now, and then you're just projecting onto, oh my god, but where's the next one where I'm going to prove myself? And then and then when you don't meet those insanely high expectations you set for yourself, then all of a sudden you're a failure, right? Or you're really hard on yourself. So like, yeah, unwiring that perfectionism thing is tough. And I've been there as well. It's a difficult thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's so interesting now. Like fast forward a decade later, I just love to remind. I don't have to remind myself as much anymore. It was a lot of practice, but like you'll hear me saying a lot that just knowing that tomorrow isn't promised, and I mean we
Mm-hmm.
just take that for granted so much, as human
Mm-hmm.
beings, and so just that's why anytime I have a chance to if I'm doing anything that I'm enjoying, even if it's just relaxing by myself, or if
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. But I see myself now looking for things, just like you mentioned, nature. Like the air feels great,
Mm-hmm.
or look at that tree, or
Mm-hmm.
look at that bird, or like I
Yeah.
just find myself
Yeah.
searching for things to make the experience I'm in even more enjoyable. And it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
It's like my mind is now looking for it, which it totally wasn't
Yeah.
like that before.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Totally a practice. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
what's your I'm curious because I know that every time that this is the first time that we've spoken, and each time
Mm-hmm.
that we speak with someone, because we've had the life experience that we've had up until now, like that's how all of us know like what we like, what we don't like, what our desires are, like what we want to see in the world, what we want to see in our personal lives. So I'm just curious, like for you, like what as of today, we're recording this whatever day it is, till 20th, I think it is,
Yeah.
whatever day it is.
Yeah.
What's your vision for whether it be like what you're doing personally, or what you'd like to see in humanity, or I'm always curious what someone's vision is for, as of right now. Because if I ask you this like 3 months later, you have 3 months of life experience, so it could have evolved, and most likely it will. What as of right now, what's your vision for your life or for humanity or
I mean, well, I do think there's like a global expansion in consciousness going on. It's like a quantum leap in the collective consciousness. So for a while, that can be uncomfortable for people, just because we're really taking out the old and discarding like our shadow selves. So that's why things seem to kind of be in upheaval right now collectively. Um, I would like to see society and civilization become more cohesive. I would like to see it be more connected. Um, I think we're really stuck in this state of separation and fear. I would like to see us step back from this fear, this collective state of fear. Um, for myself and for my practice and my career, I mean, I don't really necessarily know where it's going to go. I stopped trying to plan anything. because every time I made a plan for my life, it never worked, right? Like I was gonna be, I was gonna be a litigator a few years ago, and that obviously didn't come to fruition. I didn't even know what a life coach was 3 years ago. So I would, but my big thing and the thing I feel guided to do, and that's why, if people follow my Instagram account, they can see this, is you don't necessarily have to work with me one-on-one. I'm trying to take the information that I know and put it and display it in a way that's very digestible. So people can become aware of these different forms of practices, these different ways to enhance their well-being that necessarily isn't so mainstream. So we have access to a new way of being, right? Because I think the thing that I want to see more so than anything else is that, and this isn't a huge issue I had in school growing up, we memorized dates of events, and then I knew, the Pythagorean theorem, but I didn't know how to regulate emotions. I didn't know how to achieve a state of happiness. I didn't know how to allow sadness to settle in. I didn't know what personal boundaries were, right? Like we kind of put the cart before the horse in life, in a sense, in that we don't learn these basic life skills that are so vital to developing wholeness and wellness. And so what I want to see from society is this being the first step. Teach our children how to respect one another. Teach ourselves what boundaries are. Teach ourselves how to develop self-worth, right? Teach each other how to respect one another, or how to be compassionate, or how to find what gives you passion and fulfillment, right? I mean, that's what I want. I want people to develop the self, right? I want people to get towards self-realization. And so I just hope to play a part in whatever's needed out of me to help bring that to a mass global level.
I love that. I love that. That leaves so much room for just allowing things to evolve without having to be so rigid on like has to be this way. I totally resonate with how you just described
I'm
that.
done doing that. I'm done saying it never has worked. So I'm leaving it up to the universe.
Does it work for any of us? I mean, I like to joke with people and say, like, if anybody out there is in like, a relationship or in a career that you want to be in, or whatever, anything in your life that you would consider something that you enjoy, having physically manifested, could you have thought about all the did you know all the details leading up to that? Like, you could script out the entire plot, like who you needed to meet, when, where, how, like all of the details. Like, I've never met anyone that had it all scripted out to where it all worked out that way. And that was another reason why I was like, just get back to just being in the present moment, because I can't predict all this stuff anyways. And when I try to, I'm always incorrect. And so I even went extreme, and this is just my story, but if I even try to predict all this stuff, because it's never happened the way that I predicted, the more that I try to predict, basically I'm eliminating more ways that the universe can bring it to me.
You're boxing yourself in. You really are boxing yourself in, right?
Yeah, because the universe is not going to bring. Because if I'm predicting it, the universe is not going to bring it to me like that. If I'm predicting this, they're not going to bring it to me like that. So let me just stay off of those, so that those are open channels to come if they want to come from there.
So I want to interject, because this is a really interesting point, because the spiritual community has become obsessed with this whole manifestation thing, right? So I want to manifest a BMW. I want to manifest a Maserati, right? We get really specific with these things we want to manifest. And then once again, we leave ourselves in these confined spaces, right? Around a few years ago, I was like, as I started going into spirituality, I was like, you know what? Let's try this manifestation thing. I really set an intention to manifest my life purpose. And oh boy, I did not know, but it was a very broad thing, right? I allowed the universe to kind of fill in what that was. I'm like, okay, I just want to manifest. And I didn't know what I was asking for at that point. I didn't know that I was going to lose literally everything I derived a sense of self from. Like anything external to myself that I derived a sense of self or identity from was really stripped from me. And like everything was taken from me. My whole life was imploded. And then I realized, I guess I'm like alternative healer. But I manifested that. I didn't understand that's what I was manifesting, but that is ultimately what I manifested. So yeah, I like what you said, is that we can manifest, we can plan, but be broad with it. Like you're like, I want to be fulfilled. I want to be living my purpose, rather than like, I want to be making 6 figures by 27, right? Like then we're leaving ourselves very confined, right? So yeah, I just like you brought that up. It's like I could not predict something very specific.
Absolutely. I love to leave the how, the when, the where, the who, like these details that if we try to figure them out, it's just going to cause anxiety for us. I've learned to leave those out of the equation. Like I just look at life as, I just posted something on Instagram just a few minutes right before we got on, because people will hear me say a lot, Zach, that I just look at life as a movie, and we're the star of our own movie, and we're co-starring with all the other 7.7 billion, and they may not all have a scene, in our movie. It's unlikely that we're going to co-star with all 7.7 billion, but the ones that do come in, we'll have scenes with them, and again, we're in the scene that we're in now, and all that we can control is the scene we're in now, and what version of ourselves we bring to this scene, and that's going to determine the quality or lack thereof of the scene. And quality, I mean, it's a way to judge the scene. I'm just saying that's going to determine like if you're enjoying being in the scene or if it's like a really miserable, rough scene. It's just you just bring yourself to it and you just appreciate the scene for what it is. If it's a rough scene, just know that there'll be additional scenes. They're not promised to us, but we'll get to bring ourselves to that one as well. So my point is, once I realized that I could have an idea of what I want to see in the movie, however, not worry about how the plot is going to unfold to go into that, but just use that as like, oh, that'd be cool to go to Bali. It'd be cool to go to Hawaii. Or it'd be cool. I mean, these are things that I would like to see in my movie. I don't know how or when or where or what it's going to look like, but I just know that would be cool. And then get back to this scene. I'm not in Bali. This scene I'm in Hawaii. Yeah. So there's no reason to like try to like force it and plan all that. Like that's not my work. Like I'm gonna let the universe unfold the synchronicities, and then you look up and you're like, because I've done like vision boards and different stuff and manifested tons of stuff from it. And I mean, the power is real when we're connected with power, when we're being who we truly are. But again, like it's not our work to try to force it. And like personally, I don't put like, I know what you're saying. When someone says, I'm gonna manifest this by this date, and that's way too specific for me. That puts an unnecessary anxiety on me to where it's like, okay,
no, definitely.
Am I doing enough to do this by December 31st? Just I prefer not to go that route.
No, I'm with you.
No, that's awesome. I'm happy you brought that into the picture, because one thing that I've been more than anything lately, it's so interesting, Zach. About 2 weeks ago now, the first book that I ever read, a spiritual book that I ever read, a mentor suggested to me back almost 12 years ago. And before that, I hadn't read a book by choice in my whole life. I was an athlete, and I would skim the books in school just to find the answers for tests, so I could do the little studying that I did, so that I could get pass, so I could play. Like that was how I got through all of school. But Spirit just told me, like, go back and read that book. And it was the original 1910 Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, which is Law of Attraction book. And it's a thin book. It doesn't take long. It's like a quick read. He was so before his time in 1910. Like I can discover books that are that old too often. But the thing that I rediscovered most was being able to just have the vision for the things that we desire, like what we want to see. That's why I like to ask the vision question, and just to be able to embody that energy, as much of the time as possible, just by being in the energy of it without having to try to figure out the universe's job, to be able to impress, like, this is what I'd like to see in life universe. Like, this is the energy that I'm going to be in. But the details of how, like, I'm leaving that up to you. Like, I'm not going there. Versus the doubt, and it's just big on like just the belief factor, and how we doubt, and that makes it very difficult to manifest or to create the lifestyle we want using the power of the universe. Like if we're doubting and we think we have to make all this happen on our own and do all this, then that's just a different form of creation. It's like competitive versus creative methods. It's like we get to choose. So I just popped in my mind just now.
I'm with you. It's co-creating the universe.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome. What do you right now? We're here at the middle of June. Do people, as far as working with you, so you're doing this stuff so people can? I like what you mentioned, how you said on your Instagram, people are able to, even if they weren't working with you one-on-one, they're able to get some really cool stuff that you're sharing. And then one-on-one coaching, if they want to, is also available with you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, you guys definitely want to connect with Zack on Instagram, and he's ZA Energetics. Just popped into my head. I was like, Zack Energetics.
That's a guy. Well, yeah. I mean, just the Instagram handle is ZA Energetics. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll put that there. But the only thing I also want to ask, and I mean, this conversation can go anywhere, but I'm always curious, like, because the internet is going to live on for a long time, and you've been mentioning things throughout this whole episode, but just knowing somebody could tune into this 20 years from now, it's probably unlikely that they'll be on their phone or on a computer. They probably have some other method to listen to this.
They come up in the cyborg eye or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Have you heard about Neuralink with Elon Musk and all that stuff yet?
I vaguely, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, Elon's on his thing, man. Like I trust in that guy.
That's a whole other topic. But yeah, what Zack just described is not so far fetched. To where you'd be able to imagine out there just being able to think about texting someone and just sending the text message.
It's a slippery slope, but yeah, definitely.
I won't be one of the first to try out any of these things.
Life is literally becoming a Black Mirror episode like every single day. I mean, so yeah.
So somebody just told me 2 days ago about I've heard about Black Mirror, of course, but I always stop myself from getting into series because I get addicted to them so quick. And I just want to know, like, how many hours is this that I'm going to be committing? So, but they told me that I don't have to watch each one. It's like a separate thing. That's what they just told me 2 days ago.
Every episode is its own thing, and it's kind of funny because life is literally slowly morphing into like a Black Mirror episode. It's a very dystopic. Like, this is what technology could do to our environment, to our society, and it's like we're living it like as we speak. So it's always very interesting, but they're very well done. I'm a big fan.
That what you just said was just told to me 2 days ago, and I was like, okay, now I can get into it. What makes me nervous is getting into a series that's like 150 hours long because there's been like 8 seasons, and they hook me very easily. I just know myself.
Yeah.
Like, you hook me on the end of the episode, and I watch another one. I'll be up till 5 a.m. watching this freaking series. So
that was Breaking Bad, and I remember I started watching Breaking Bad, and I was like through 5 seasons, and like 1 week I was like, I accomplished nothing. Like I haven't done anything. So yeah.
Yeah, no, zero. Am I going to edit the video or watch this next episode? Yeah. I'll just watch the episode. No, but I never asked the question. So just anything, just you've been doing it the whole time, but anything you would just want someone to know, whether they're hearing this live now or 20 years from now, just to make sure that, and you've already said it, like when I asked you a similar version of the question, that you can heal. I mean, you could rewind and listen to everything that Zack said, but I just want to make sure I squeeze any extra juice that wants to come out that you want to share with people.
I mean, it's really tough to think of something specific. I really want people to start questioning things, start questioning the nature of our reality, start questioning what's happening in our present day environment. Does the world feel right to you? Does it seem right to you? Does this feel? Is this where you are in your life? Does this feel purposeful to you? Do you feel like your environment feels fulfilling? Right? I think what I want people to do is to really step outside of these predefined boxes we live in, and to really begin to start asking questions, because there are so many different realities that we can inhabit, that we can live out. Right? We are living in a small bandwidth of possible realities, right? And we think this is the only way that we can live or exist within this physical dimension or physical space. So I really want people to begin to step back and ask ourselves, like, what can we create together? What type of society can we make? And not limit ourselves in those questions and pondering that. Right? That's what I want people to see, because I think we are beginning to wake up, right? And so that's really where I want to get at. Yeah.
I love that. See, now you're speaking 100% into my listening and my language. Just guys, notice the subtle way that Zack asked that question, as far as how can we question versus a how can I, like, this is what I said, and this stems from the illusion that we're separate. As far as, way back in the day when people were living in tribes, they were asking, how can we all make it? Because everybody had to contribute for us to make it, because you couldn't be on your own. You get picked off by a saber-toothed tiger quick. You know, and so, this is, now that we have, all this beautiful technology and we can move around the world so easily, like, it's a lot easier to just look in the mirror and only ask questions for the person that we see, which I'm not telling you there's anything wrong with that. But we just get different answers when we care enough to ask about, how can we all come together? How can we all thrive? How can we create the world that we want to see? And these are the questions that I ask, and the answers that I get are much different than when it was just me asking, like, how can Noel make $1 million? It was just it's just a different set of answers. So yeah, no, it's I really resonate with that, and all my questions right now they're just weak questions because it's just the world that I want to see involves having everybody on the planet. Ideally, I mean, I'm not going to be unhappy if I can't get to all 7.7 billion while I'm here. However, the ideal planet for me to be on is where people are conscious enough to know who they truly are, who they really truly are. And then, from there, be able to wake up every day and do whatever fulfills them. I mean, you've said parts of this throughout the whole episode. Be able to do what fulfills them, what sounds fun, what part of the world do they want to see change, individually, and then come together with other people that also want to do that. And then collectively we have environmental change, and collectively we have, more equality, and collectively we have, different education, and teaching kids differently. I mean, there's all these different elements of the world that individually out there, a lot of you guys are like super passionate about. This is like what's most important to you, or one of the most important things. And the only thing stopping you out there from fully going into that and putting your energy into that is, first and foremost, not knowing that you can, not knowing who you truly are. Because if you knew who you truly are, that that's a big part of the reason why you're here, is to be able to put that energy into whatever lights you up, so that your soul can evolve, and so that you can, and then the planet can evolve. And it's going to do that anyways, whether you're, putting your own energy into it or not. So, and then beyond that, I just want people to have the abundance of everything that matters to them: time, money, relationships, whatever matters, like having more than enough. And in a world where people have consciousness and more than enough of everything required to live a full life, what else is there? I mean, we've just covered the internal, most importantly, and we've covered everything that we need external to live: food, water, all these things. So I resonate totally with that, and that's the only thing that I envision for humanity while I'm here is that, where more and more people can come together and live that way. So
yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So I'm on team, and we're likewise.
Yeah. Well, this is awesome, brother. I really have enjoyed connecting with you. And you guys out there, follow Zack, and definitely reach out if you're inspired, and share this episode. We dropped some good stuff in here, and I love the human element, Zack, that you bring to the table as well, because you're sharing, like you're willing to share like the challenges that you've gone through, so they don't just see like current version of Zack and be like, that dude has some things figured out.
It's been a struggle.
I try to do that as much as possible, and I didn't do that as much 5 years ago, whereas like I want people to know, like, because of all this external focusing and not being present, like there was tons of depression and hard times, and like just not a fun life experience while that was the case. And people have a hard time believing that the version of you out there that they see today is, you weren't like that 5 years ago or even a year ago. Like, I mean, it's just constant evolution. So
constant.
That's for all of us.
Tough times breed strength, right? I mean, we have to. Sometimes there's this notion within some. I mean, I see some of those in the spiritual community about sometimes sidestepping or thinking ways to outsmart our emotional pain or life trials or difficulties. But I think, like, the real part of the spiritual journey is leaning into them. Because it's through the emotional pain, it's through the trials and tribulations that we cultivate the wisdom and that inner guidance system and the capacity for love. Right? Like, love does not exist without grief and pain. So, it's about embracing all forms and all aspects of our experience that really allows us to step into what we're supposed to be.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, thank you so much, brother, for coming on and sharing your awesome energy with us. And happy to now know that you exist on this planet. And I'll affirm our first co-creation, and we'll co-create again, in whatever capacity when timing is right. And you guys share this episode, and thank you guys out there that have been reviewing the podcast and making it easier for people to find. Leave another review on this one and say that Zack Human was awesome, and I became aware of this, and this, and I'll screenshot it and make sure he gets that. And I just appreciate you guys all out there, rooting for everybody out there. We're all in this together, and we'll talk to you guys soon on another episode of Enlightened Conversations, and appreciate you all. Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
That was awesome, brother.
Yeah, great.
Hold on one second before you go. Let me stop the stream.
Yeah, cool.
I'll say later to you.